Hey everybody, if you're just tuning in, it's because we just started and you hit play. But I have a two-part question for you. One, how much do you hate the media? And two, is it enough? Well, I'll tell you the answer to the second question. It's no, as you're about to see. And I got to get just a little bit into the weeds on this one, so bear with me. We had a recession in 2022, and if you don't remember it, it's because the media lied about it. They said it never happened. There's a generally accepted definition that 6 months or more of a shrinking economy is a recession, except that the nonpartisan National Bureau of Economic Research decided to change the commonly understood definition to benefit Joe Biden and the media. So in 2022, they decided that many factors go into that calculation. That was their phrase, and that the Biden recession wasn't a recession at all when you looked at the many factors that nobody had ever looked at before. And of course, the media, they were happy to play along and try and deceive everybody. So today, we still have an economy with a Joe Biden hangover from all the debt, all the regulation, and the press, the one that denied there was a recession in 2022, has a new word for this: TRUMPCESSION. Are you hating them enough now? Bill, this is stuff that it's been bugging me for a couple of years, and yesterday when I saw the headline in The Guardian saying, "Get ready for the Trump session," I just about blew a fuse. So let me ask you that two-part question. How much do you hate the media, and is it enough?
I love the media, and I love the fact that they are incapable of learning anything. This is my favorite part about the media. The one thing the 2024 election proposed basically on a meta scale was, who are you going to believe, the media or your own lying eyes, you know? And we're the last 4 years of the Biden administration. Are you better off now than you were then? And the people of the country resoundingly said no. They have been trying to craft the narrative that I can't even say it with a straight face, but they've been desperately trying to craft the narrative that Trump supporters are deeply regretting their decision, and that Trump is massively unpopular with the people that voted him into office, who are already on their knees begging the progressives to please come in and rescue us from our own terrible, terrible mistake. When in point of fact, every single person I know that's voted for Trump is floating around in a pink cloud, just unable to believe all of the things he's doing on a daily basis. So I got a couple things to say about the Trump session. First of all, go ahead and call it a Trump session. Price of eggs is coming down. They're lower than they were when Biden was president. Trump himself said, hey, look, there's going to be some adjustments, and who knows? So run with it. Ronald Reagan had, as you know, when he took office, also inherited the Jimmy Carter malaise. And the first 2 years of Reagan's first term were an actual recession, a real recession.
Oh, it was a bad one, yeah.
Yeah. By the time it came for Reagan's reelection in 1984, he came 5,000 votes in Minnesota short of running the entire table. He won everything. So if Donald Trump, if it turns out we do enter a recession, I'm not too worried about that. I think, we've still got 18 months until the midterms, and I think whatever bumps in the road we may run into, we'll have recovered from them then. But honestly, Steve, what the wreckage that I'm not saying that people will account for the wreckage that Biden made. What I am saying is we saw so much wreckage, so much crazy out of control inflation and all the rest of it, that I don't think any Trump session is going to have the effect that the media has. It's not going to feel like a Trump-pression, So just keep going. This is in line with my subject this week, which is, since these people can't learn anything and they're running in the same direction, where are they going to eventually stop running? So, yeah, go for it. What I want is more of the same from the left, because they have managed to put themselves into that 80-20 box where they have to constantly defend the 20% because Trump is taking the 80%. 80% of Americans want a secure border. 80% of Americans want lower energy costs. 80% of Americans want free and fair elections. 80% of America wants to cut federal fraud. And so keep opposing him at every opportunity, no matter what the cost. That's exactly what I want you to do. And so keep it up, you stalwart guardians of the Republic's integrity. I cannot wait to see the results that you are going to continue to create for us.
Indeed. The lack of lessons learned just impresses me. Although, since you brought up Reagan, let me say a couple of things about him. God, I miss that guy. He probably could have swept all 50 states in 1984 had he campaigned in Minnesota, but the word is, and I can't remember which biographer wrote this, or which book I read this in, was that Reagan chose not to because he did not want to equal George Washington in sweeping every state.
That sounds like Reagan.
And doesn't that sound like Reagan? That's why I tend to believe that story.
And it's tougher to, by the way, it's tougher to sweep 50 states than it is to sweep 13.
A little bit, yeah. And the other thing I'd like to say is that Reagan and Fed Chair Paul Volcker engineered the 1981-82 recession on purpose. Reagan gave Volcker the political cover to raise rates as high as necessary to wring the last of inflation out of the system that really started under Johnson, was aggravated by Nixon, and then again by Carter. So we had more than a decade's worth of lousy policy that just had to be twisted out. And Reagan did it, taking the calculated risk that things would recover before 1984. Yep. And get this, in the 9 months, the first 3 quarters of 1984 before the election, real wages went up 7% in just 9 months. That's the kind of recovery Reagan engineered with Paul Volcker. Just amazing. Anyway, Scott, I got to get back to you now. I got this from a commenter over at Vodka Planet earlier today, my site at PJ Media. CNN yesterday decided to redefine what a recession is. They redefined it for Joe Biden in 2022, and now they're saying the traditional and official definition of a U.S. recession is a significant decline in economic activity that is spread across the economy and lasts more than a few months. Well, now CNN is saying that 2 quarters of negative growth has never been went from saying 2 quarters of negative growth has never been the definition to now saying that 6 weeks of growth less than 2% has always been a recession. They've raised the chocolate ration from 10 grams to 5 grams.
That's right.
And they did it right there on the air. So, Scott, let me ask you a 2-part question. How much do you hate the media, and is it enough?
So I think the new definition of a recession is 6 days of negative headlines from the mainstream media. That constitutes a recession. It's funny because if you look at the stock market, which I think should be called the talk market because all they do is react to talk. In the short run, this is kind of a Warren Buffett, Charlie Mungerism. In the short run, the stock market's ups and downs mean nothing. It's the long run that really matters. And that's why real economists don't measure things over weeks or even months, but in longer spans. And that's why there's nothing more common than headlines that indicate that economists were surprised at the particular latest release of unemployment numbers or any kind of numbers that the government releases. And so I think that if you want to start calling things a recession now, isn't that what the goal of the Fed has been for a long time? Is because they were concerned that the economy was overheated, and they're trying to cool it down, and that's why they weren't willing to cut interest rates very quickly or at all for a long time, because they were concerned that because jobs were going so well and economic activity was going so well. So, this is another kind of tempest in a teapot that is all sound and noise, signifying nothing. I don't think that the media has any substantial, first of all, understanding of economics, period, nor do most economists really have an understanding of macro long-term economics. And they like to play in this little arena with the reporters, speculating about if you pull this lever on the grand machine, then you're going to get this outcome coming out of it, when they don't really know about it. There's an old expression, I think, from the Reagan administration, which was stay the course. And I think you set your direction, you set your sails, and then you stay committed to the general direction. You're going to have to tack left and tack right every once in a while to adapt to the changing of the winds, but you never change your destination.
That is it. Keep your eye on the prize. Folks, I've actually got some bad news for you. We're in a recession now, and we've been in one for about 4 years if you calculate things my way, the right way. Let me give you an example. Let's say you earned $100,000 last year, and then you took out a loan for $10,000 from the bank. and you went to Vegas and you blew the whole $10,000 on blackjack and strippers, and you come back home and you tell your wife that you made $110,000 last year. That's not how that works, is it? So that's what the federal deficit is. Washington counts that deficit spending as a genuine part of the economy, as part of our national income. But in fact, it's money borrowed from the future. So if you take away Joe Biden's $2 trillion a year deficits, one we're still stuck with until the Doge boys and Congress do their work, if you take those $2 trillion out of the economy every year, just like you wouldn't count the $10,000 that you blew in Vegas as income, if you take that out, the economy's been shrinking at about a 2% or so annual rate every year for the last 4 years. We've just been covering it over, papering it over with all of this deficit spending. And that's going to come to a stop, which means we got some pain ahead, I think. Maybe we'll be able to skirt it. I don't actually know. Predictions are hard, especially about the future. But just remember that whatever they tell you about the economy, you got to subtract the deficit, because Washington, they took a lot of money from your grandkids and they blew it all on blackjack and strippers. That's your right angle on that, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.